Liam always thought the town felt too small for the sky above it. No matter how wide the field stretched or how far the tree line went, the sky over Harvest Ridge felt low, like someone had pressed a thumb down on the whole place and left it slightly warped. He noticed it again as the bus pulled off the highway and onto the cracked two-lane road. The clouds weren't especially thick, but daylight still looked dim, like the sun was second-guessing whether it wanted to shine here. He hadn't been home since summer. College had swallowed him whole. Midterms, endless reading, cheap coffee, loud neighbors in the dorm. He'd been looking forward to a few days of quiet, real sleep, his mom's cooking, maybe even zoning out in front of the old TV. But as the bus rolled past familiar fields and shuttered shops, that old, buried unease crept back into his chest. Nothing had changed, and yet, something was wrong. He couldn't name it. The houses were the same, the faded gas station sign, the little convenience store with the crooked open sign that never actually was. But the people. That's what did it. The few who were out on the sidewalk when the bus hissed to a stop and didn't just look at the bus. They looked at him, like they'd been waiting. He slung his duffel over his shoulder and stepped down onto the cold pavement. The air had that late November bite to it, the kind that smelled like cold dirt and dead leaves and chimney smoke. Liam? He turned. Miss Calloway from 2 houses down stood near the bus stop sign. Wrapped in a heavy brown coat, she'd always been a talker when he was younger. Chatty, noisy, always handing him cookies and asking about school. Now, she just stared. Her smile was stretched too wide, her lipstick a little crooked. Her eyes were shiny, like she'd been crying. But there was a brightness to them that didn't match. "Hey, Miss Calloway," he said, forcing a smile. "Been a while." She reached out and grabbed his arm. Her fingers were cold, gripping a little too hard. "You're back," she said. Her voice shook, but not from age, like someone had pushed the words out of her. "Good, good. It's been bound to be your year." Liam blinked. "My ear?" Miss Calloway's smile faltered for half a second. Real fear flickered in her eyes. Then she let go of his arm and stepped back. "Your parents will be thrilled," she said quickly. "You hurry home now, dear." Before he could ask anything else, she turned and walked away. Not quickly, not in a panic, just deliberately. Like she didn't trust herself to say another word. Liam stood there for a moment, duffel strap digging into his shoulder, watching her go. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "That was weird." The bus rumbled off behind him. The town fell back into that quiet he remembered, a quiet that felt less like peace and more like everyone was holding their breath. He adjusted his grip on the bag and started walking home. The closer he got to his street, the stranger the quiet felt. He passed Old Man Pearson's house. No radio playing on the front porch like usual. The blinds were drawn tight. The Miller's place, where 2 kids used to leave their bikes laying in the yard. Empty. No toys, no noise. Just stillness. Even the wind seemed to die down when he turned onto his parents' road. There it was. The same 2-story house. Same peeling white paint. Same sagging front steps. But it looked cleaner. All the leaves were raked. The porch was scrubbed. The windows actually shone, catching what little light the sky offered. And on the support post by the railing, chest level, there was something he didn't remember. A symbol, burned into the wood. He walked closer, frowning. The mark was about the size of his palm, a circle roughly etched with crooked lines crossing through it like roots or veins. He reached out and brushed his thumb over it. The grooves were deep, recently cut. "Liam!" He jerked his hand back. His mom burst through the front door, apron already on, hair pulled back in a messy bun. Her eyes were red and puffy, but her smile was bright, almost blinding. "Hey, Mom," he said, trying not to look over her shoulder at the symbol again. She practically flew down the steps to throw her arms around him. He staggered a step from the force of it. "You're here," she whispered into his shoulder. Her voice had that choked, too full quality. "You're actually here." Yeah." He hugged her back, feeling the tremble in her arms. "Break finally." She pulled away and cupped his face in both hands, scanning him like she was checking for damage. "You look tired," she said. "But good. You look good." "Thanks." He glanced past her into the house. "Is Dad?" "Inside," she said quickly. He's been getting everything ready." "For what?" She hesitated. "For Thanksgiving," she said. "Big meal this year, bigger than usual. You know how it is." He didn't actually. Their usual big meal was the three of them and maybe one lonely neighbor. This felt different. The air around the house felt different, charged. His father appeared in the doorway, then wiping his hands on a towel dish. He looked older than Liam remembered, more gray at the temples, lines deeper around his mouth, but his eyes were sharp, locked onto Liam like he was memorizing him. "Hey, kiddo," he said, voice a little rough. "Hey, Dad." His father stepped forward and pulled him into a hug. It lasted a beat longer than it should have. "You're taller," his dad murmured. "I've been this height for 2 years." His father chuckled, but it sounded forced. His mom grabbed his duffel before he could protest and unsheared him inside. The house smelled amazing. Roasting meat, spices, sweet bread, something earthy he couldn't place. The kitchen counters were buried in dishes, more food than he'd seen in this house in ever. "Wow," he said. "You feeding the whole town?" His mom laughed too loudly. "Don't be silly. Just a few guests. Go drop your bag in the room, then come help us at the table." He carried his duffel upstairs, passing old family photos on the wall. Little him with missing teeth, school pictures, his parents on their wedding day. Everything was dust-free, polished, like the house was being staged. His bedroom was almost exactly as he left it. Old posters, the same worn comforter, desk stacked with things he didn't bother to pack when he left for college. But something felt off here too. The curtains were new, darker. The window was shut tight and latched. There was a faint smell of something herbal in the air, like dried plants or incense. He dropped his bag on the bed and stood there for a moment, listening. The house was too quiet for how many people were supposedly coming. No TV, no music, no ticking clock. Just the distant click of plates in the kitchen and the muted sounds of his parents. Voices low and tense. He stepped back onto the landing and paused. Below he could hear them. "He doesn't know," his mother's voice whispered. "He doesn't need to," his father murmured back. "It's already done. We can't fight this. We could leave." "And go where? You know how that ends. Where luckily it's only..." His father cut himself off. Liam swallowed and backed away before the floorboards could creak under his weight. Only what? Only him? Only this year? He didn't want to know. Not yet. He went back downstairs, pushing the unease deeper. It didn't move. It just lodged beneath his ribs and sat there, waiting. By late afternoon, the house was full. Liam stood at the edge of the living room, feeling like he walked into a memory and a dream at the same time. Miss Calloway was there, the sheriff, his dad's co-worker, two people he vaguely recognized as running the hardware store, a couple from the church who smelled like perfume and cold air. They smiled too much. "Look at you," one woman said, pinching his arm like he was 10. "College boy now." "So proud," another man said. "You're making your family very proud." Hands lingered on his shoulder, on his back, on his arm. Every time he tried to drift toward the front door or a window, someone gently steered him back. "Stay close," his mother kept saying. "Stay where we can see you." He tried to laugh it off, but a chill crawled up the back of his neck. They moved to the dining room. The table had been extended with extra leaves to make it longer. Every inch was covered. Turkey, ham, potatoes, vegetables, pies, bread, balls of things he didn't recognize. Each place was set with care. Old china, cloth napkins, real silverware they never used. He sat near the middle of the table, his parents on either side. The sheriff sat directly across from him. Liam tried not to notice that. "Before we start," the sheriff said, raising his glass, "a few words." Everyone lifted their glasses. Liam followed, his throat suddenly dry. "We are grateful," the sheriff said. His voice was calm, practiced, heavy, "for another year of safety, another year of full harvest, another year with no sickness, no storms, no shortage." Murmurs of agreement, soft amens. "We honor the ones who came before us, the ones who gave so we could thrive. And we are grateful," he continued, eyes drifting toward Liam's parents, "for those who step up when it is their time." Liam's mother's hand tightened around her glass. His father stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Liam lowered his glass slightly. "What's he talking about?" he asked under his breath. His mother didn't look at him. "Just tradition." The sheriff smiled. "Let's eat." The food was good. Too good. Every bite felt warm and heavy. The herbs were strong. There was something savory in the gravy that left his tongue tingling. "New recipe?" he asked, forcing a light tone. "Old one," his mom said. "Very old." He ate more to be polite, to keep people from staring, to ignore the way the room seemed to grow softer around the edges. At some point, the conversations blurred into low drones. Faces swam. Laughter sounded far away. His limbs felt slow, like he was underwater. He blinked hard. The sheriff was watching him over the rim of his glass. Liam set his fork down. I think I need some air." He tried to stand. The room tilted slightly. Hands were on him before he could take a full step. "Careful there," someone chuckled. "Long trip. You must be exhausted." His mother's hand pressed his shoulder down gently. "Just sit, honey. Finish your drink." He hadn't even remembered lifting his glass, but it was in his hand. Half full, dark, sweet, bitter. And at the bottom, he remembered studying pharmacology basics. Lecture slides on psychotropics, absorption rates, symptoms. His heart thudded. "Mom," he whispered, "what's in this?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Forgive us," she whispered back. The room tilted again, and the world went soft. He didn't pass out all at once, not like in the movies, where everything blinks to black. Instead, it was like someone kept dimming the world. Voices turned to low hymns, lights smeared, sounds echoed. He felt himself being lifted, hands under each arm, his feet dragging. He tried to speak, no words came. Cold air hit his face as they stepped outside. The night was fully settled in now, sky dark and thick. The moon was buried behind clouds. The streetlights cast weak pools of yellow light that didn't quite reach the road. They moved in a line. He could feel it more than see it. People on either side of him, behind him, in front of him. No one spoke. Their footsteps crunched on gravel, dirt, then leaves. They were leaving town. He tried to turn his head. His neck barely responded. Fields passed on either side. He could recognize the smell of distant cornfields, now just stalks and stubble. The cold hit harder out here, wind cutting through his shirt. He wanted to ask where they were going. He already knew. Harvest House. The name wasn't something anyone said out loud in town, but he heard it whispered by kids when he was younger. Dared each other to go find it. Told stories about old farmhouses where people went in and didn't come out. He thought it was just that, a story. The ground changed under his feet again. Packed dirt, then uneven boards. A door creaked. They went inside. It smelled like old wooden dust and something else. Something metallic and earthy that clung to the back of his throat. The room they stepped into was larger than he expected. The ceiling was low and bowed. Thick beams crossed overhead, black with age. The only light came from candles shoved into cracks in the walls. Clusters on shelves, nailed to posts. Their flames flickered in small, steady rhythm, like they were breathing. The townsfolk guided him to the center of the room. His parents were there too. He could see them now, faces pale in the candlelight. They weren't tied up. They weren't fighting. They were kneeling. His mother's hands shook as he reached for him, pressing palms against his cheek. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." His father stared at the floor, lips moving silently. "Why?" Liam forced the words out. His tongue felt numb, but the question pushed through anyway. "What is this?" His mother's eyes glistened, catching candlelight. "It's our turn," she said. "Every family, someday. The town survives. We survive because others gave. We had a good life. It's time to give back." Liam stared at her, not understanding and understanding too much all at once. "You knew?" He choked. "All these years? You knew this was coming and you never?" "We hoped it wouldn't be us," his father said. His voice was flat, dead. "Everyone does. Until it is." The sheriff stepped forward, hands folded in front of him like he was at a casual town meeting. "Liam, I know this doesn't make sense now, but everything we have, everything you grew up with, the safety, the crops, the calm years, none of that is free." He gestured around them. "The land remembers, the land demands. Before you were here, others fed it. We formalized it, organized it. One family each cycle, chosen by lot. Your family drew the mark. It's nothing personal, it's just balance." He said it like he was explaining taxes. Liam tried to stand. His legs didn't fully respond, but adrenaline shoved some life back into his muscles. "This is insane," he said. "You can't just..." Hands pressed down on his shoulders, multiple, heavy. "We can't fight it," someone murmured behind him, a man's voice shaking. "The last time anyone tried, we lost half the town. It took years to repair." "So you just keep doing it?" Liam spat. "Over and over? Call it gratitude and hope and the house doesn't come for you next?" No one answered. They didn't need to. The chanting started soft. Not words, just sounds, low tones. Hums that vibrated in his chest, even if he didn't want them to. It wasn't organized at first. Then the sounds began to sync. The group finding a single shared rhythm like they've done this their whole lives. Liam felt it in his ribs before he heard it properly. A vibration under his sternum, like the room had a heartbeat and was trying to sync with his. His parents knelt on either side of him now. His mother's fingers were locked with his. His father's hand was a weight on his shoulder. The air thickened. Not colder, not warmer, just heavier. Harder to pull into his lungs. The candles along the walls flickered in unison, flame tips leaning toward the center of the room. The sheriff moved into the circle against the wall. Head bowed, humming with the others. Liam swallowed. His tongue felt dry. "What happens now?" he whispered. His father's fingers tightened. "We give thanks," he said quietly. "Properly." His mother turned her head just enough to look at him. Her eyes were wet, but there was a strange steadiness there. "Listen, when it comes to you, just say you're grateful. Don't fight it." "For what?" he asked. Her lips trembled. "For everything you got, even if it wasn't fair." The humming grew louder, layering, folding over itself. The candles nearest to the door went out, one by one, like someone was walking past and pinching them closed. The darkness crawled inward in a slow spiral. The air pressed tight around his chest. He could feel something now, not a shape he could see, just an awareness moving through the room, circling along the walls, brushing past the kneeling townsfolk like it was counting them. Every time it passed someone, their humming wavered. A few flinched. One man near the far wall let out a choked sob and clamped a hand over his own mouth. Liam saw his breath plume out in one long white stream, longer than he was actually breathing. It hung in the air for a moment, then curved gently towards the center of the room and vanished into nothing. The man sagged back where he knelt, shoulders drooping, his head tipped forward, chin to chest. His eyes stayed open but empty, staring at a spot on the floor that wasn't there. No one went to him. They just hummed louder. The presence moved on. It made another slow circuit around the room. Every time it sank into someone, you can see in the air a thin thread of their breath pulling out of them and drifting inward like smoke. Some were left pale but conscious. Some slumped down and didn't move again. A woman near the back whispered, "Thank you," every time she exhaled, even as the breath left her in longer and longer streams. The floor beneath Liam's knees felt warmer now, like there was something just under the boards, listening. The humming shifted, not just noisy anymore. Words bled into it, old syllables that didn't belong to English. Vowels stretched wrong, consonants in places they shouldn't fit. Liam's skin prickled. His parents started to whisper along with the others. Not loudly, but he could feel the sound where their hands met his. The thing in the room drew closer. He couldn't see it, but he knew exactly where it was, like knowing someone has leaned over your shoulder in the dark, even though you haven't turned around. It passed behind him. For a heartbeat, his vision dimmed. A pressure touched the back of his skull, soft but enormous, like a fingertip pushing at a door. There was a taste in his mouth, copper and dirt and rain. His jaw locked. His lungs forgot how to work. His heart hammered once, then twice, then waited. Inside that silent beat, something leaned in. Grateful? The thought wasn't words, but that's how his brain understood it. A question without a question mark. A demand shaped like a choice. His mother's grip crushed his fingers. "Say it," she hissed. Liam, please, say it. He could feel her shaking, feel his father shaking, feel the entire town holding its breath inside its humming. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The presence pressed harder. Not cruelly, not angrily, just expecting. Like a hand waiting to receive something it had been promised. Images flashed through Liam's head too quickly to control. His mom burning her hand on a pan and laughing it off. His dad teaching him how to ride a bike in the cracked driveway. Late summers without storms tearing into the roof. Winters without pipes bursting. Years without anyone in the town missing, sick or hungry. All bought with this. With people going out into the dark and not returning. He heard himself whisper, "No." It wasn't loud. But in that room, in that moment, it might as well have been a shout. The humming faltered. Not much, just a hitch like the whole room had tripped on a step. The pressure in his head recoiled, surprised. Then it moved. Fast. It slammed into his mother first. She gasped, her back arching, eyes going wide. Her breath poured out of her in a steady stream, a thin white ribbon in the cold air. "Mom!" Liam choked. Her grip in his hand tightened once, hard, then loosened. Her breath didn't stop. It kept flowing, longer than any human breath should be, twisting away from her mouth and toward the center of the room, where something was quietly gathering all of it up. Her shoulders drooped, her head tilted, her eyes dimmed. She slumped forward against him, her weight sudden and heavy. The humming surge almost panicked, as if the town was trying to smooth over the disruption, to keep the ritual from tearing. The presence rolled over his father's next. His father didn't fight it. He drew in one breath, held Liam's shoulder with both hands, and let it out slowly, whispering, "Thank you," into the cold. His breath left him in a rush, joining his wife's, forming a thicker tide in the air that twisted itself into an invisible cup in the middle of the room. His body sagged, his hands slipped. He folded down beside Liam, face slacked, eyes glassy. The room shuddered. The floorboards creaked like something huge had just shifted its weight from underneath them. The pressure that had been aimed at Liam relaxes, just a bit, like a host who has received enough to stay polite, but not to be truly satisfied. It turned away from the center, went back to the walls, back to the townsfolk, taking more, faster now. Breaths poured from mouths all around the room. Some voices kept whispering "thank you" until there was nothing left to give the words shape. Others sobbed soundlessly as their air was pulled out of them in a long, trembling stream. Not all of them died. Some sagged and stayed upright, chests rising shallowly, emptied of something you couldn't name but could feel missing. Some drooped where they knelt. The house drank it all in, the invisible weight in the center of the room growing thicker, heavier, a pulse in the air. The names on the walls, hundreds of them, seemed to deepen in the candlelight, as if freshly carved. New scratches appeared, letter by letter, along one of the empty beams near the back. Liam's vision swam as he watched the name etch itself into place. Cooper, his father's last name. Beneath it, smaller, another, Elena, his mother. His throat closed. His own name did not appear. The presence passed behind him again, curious. It brushed his mind, the way you might brush a hand over a locked door you don't feel like forcing open. Stubborn, it seemed to take note. Not angry, not offended, just marking him. Then the pressure receded, down, Out, away from the house, sinking back into the land that fed it. The humming frayed, then fell apart completely. The candles burned steady again, their flames small and ordinary. The air felt empty, just hollow, like something huge had been in the room and then left, taking every sound with it. For a few seconds, no one moved. Then someone near the wall started to cry, a small broken sound that grew, multiplied until the room was full of quiet sobs and choked breath. The sheriff pushed himself up from where he'd been pressed to the floor, using a support beam to brace his weight. His face was gray, his lips bloodless, but his eyes were open. He looked around the room, counting. He saw Liam's parents slumped beside him, saw their names newly carved on the beam. His shoulders sagged. It took more than we pledged. He didn't sound surprised, just tired. By the time anyone thought to move, the candles had burned down a little further. The sheriff gave a few clipped instructions: who would carry who, which families needed to be helped home, who would return before dawn to set things right. No one mentioned police reports. No one mentioned ambulances. Too dangerous. Too many questions. The town will wake up and feel heavy, the sheriff said to no one in particular. But they won't remember why. That's our burden, not theirs. He didn't look at Liam when he spoke. He didn't have to. Liam sat there between his parents' bodies until his knees hurt and his legs went numb. He watched people he'd known since childhood step around the fallen, avoid his eyes, faces a mix of relief, grief, and something close to shame. Someone stopped long enough to touch his shoulder. Others didn't. He didn't say anything. He was afraid of what might come out if he opened his mouth. Grief, or laughter, or nothing at all. The room slowly emptied. The sheriff was the last to leave. He paused by Liam, looking older than Liam had ever seen him. "There'll be food at your house," he said quietly. "People will come by with casseroles for a while. They'll say the usual things, then they'll go back to their lives. That's how this works." Liam stared at the floor. "At me?" he asked. The sheriff's jaw clenched. "You walk away if you're smart, or you stay and help keep the story going so no one else tries to mess with it. Either way, this place isn't done with you. Not really." He stepped out into the thin gray light, seeping in from the doorway. For a moment, Liam sat alone with the bodies and the soft, thick, cooling wood. Then he stood. His legs shook but held. He pressed his forehead to his mother's, then his father's. Their skin was cooling. Their faces were absolutely peaceful. He whispered something that might have been, "I'm sorry," or "I love you," or "I won't let this be everything." Then he turned and walked out of Harvest House. Outside, the sky was starting to pale. The field stretched away on all sides, still and frosted, as if nothing had happened. Behind him, the farmhouse loomed. He felt it in his back like a gaze, but when he turned to look, it was just old wood and sagging roof line and crooked windows. Ordinary to anyone who didn't know better. The carved symbol above the door, matching the one in his porch, seemed darker now, like it's been fed. He walked past the trampled path, past the edge of the fields, past the faint line where the land around Harvest House felt thick, and the land beyond that felt like any other patch of earth. He didn't head into town. He headed for the highway. 1 mile, 2. He lost count. The wind cut through his shirt, His bare feet burned, then numbed. Eventually, a car slowed beside him. Dark sedan, older, a little rust in the wheel wells. The window rolled down. The driver looked him over with quick, assessing eyes, middle-aged, lines at the corner of his mouth that suggested he forgotten how to smile properly. "You from Harvest Ridge?" the man asked. Liam hesitated, then nodded once. "Not anymore." "Get in," he said softly. "You don't want to be walking alone this close to that place when the sun comes up." Liam slid into the passenger seat. The heater was on. The air smelled like coffee and dust and something faintly metallic. As they pulled away, the driver said, almost casually, "Town like that doesn't stay quiet this long without giving something up. People like to think the world is fair. It's not. It just balances in ugly ways." Liam kept his gaze fixed on the side mirror. In it, the fields rolled by in reverse. For a brief moment, he caught a glimpse of Harvest House in the distance. Just a dark shape on the land. Then, as the car reached a bend in the road, the house seemed to fold, not vanish with a dramatic flash. Just lean out of sight, like someone closing a door. By the time the car straightened out, there was nothing there but a bare patch of dirt and a faint ring where the ground looked slightly lower, like something large had rested there and sunk back down. The driver followed his gaze. "You'll see it even when it's not really there. That's how those places work. They plant themselves inside your head." Liam swallowed. He thought about the way the presence had pushed against his mind and that small, stubborn part of him that refused to say, "Thank you." "Can it follow?" he asked before he could stop himself. The driver was quiet for a moment. "Places like that don't need a follow. They just wait. People do the walking back on their own." Liam turned away from the window and stared at the road ahead instead. The sky brightened. The miles slipped by. He felt lighter and heavier at the same time, like something massive had stepped out of his chest and left a hollow behind. Some part of what it was made of had stuck. Later, long time after he left Harvest Ridge in the rearview mirror of his life, long after the town had another peaceful year, and another, there were nights, always in late autumn, when he'd wake up in a different city, in a different apartment, heart pounding for no reason. He'd swear he could feel a hum in the floorboards. Soft. Patient. Waiting. Not demanding gratitude anymore, just reminding him that it knew his name. Back in the fields outside of Harvest Ridge, as the sun fully cleared the horizon, the wind shifted. It passed over a bare patch where the house had stood. For a moment, if anyone had been standing close enough and quiet enough, they might have heard a low sound rise from the soil. Not a word, not a voice, just the faint rhythm echo of something that's sounding a little too much like breathing being drawn in, and held, and held, and held, until next year.